the sorts of skills, not necessarily that you already need to have, but that you would develop as you learn the role, perhaps go on the boot camps that we're going to be talking about, or enter an apprenticeship, that you would develop. Obviously, a knowledge of hardware and software. If you're going to be implementing a technology solution for a business, you need to know what there is out there to put in the business. But also the ability to find answers, the ability to think around a problem and not just get stuck at the first hurdle. You'd be amazed. I don't know if you've ever watched any IT support people work, but their best friend is Google. And they spend a lot of time looking up the answers on things like Stack Exchange. And as I mentioned, good customer service skills are also incredibly helpful because you are dealing with people every day. The sort of salaries that you could expect from that role, a starting salary of around £24,000 in London, rising to £55,000 to £60,000 a few years experience. And again, that would help when you're in those roles, that's when you're providing that level of technology infrastructure. I'm not going to do an activity for that one because I figure that's probably the most familiar of all of the roles that I'm going to be talking about. So next, on to digital marketing. Here we meet, oh, sorry, I pressed that the wrong way. Technology, eh? So digital marketing is the name that we give to this part of the marketing mix that uses social media. So you're using digital tools to deliver your marketing messages. Again, the kind of person that this suits, if you would describe yourself as never far away from your next social post, or designing those social beyond that, the skills that you would learn also see you interacting with the analytics that all social platforms provide, helping to refine your marketing campaigns in response to what works, who your audience is, and what you learn about them through those analytics. So there's obviously the designing the social posts, so you need a good eye for design, but there's also, you need to write impactful copy, so the text that accompanies those posts to communicate the message of the business. And as I mentioned, you're analysing the figures that come back from the social media analytical tools, so you need to be comfortable with numbers as well. A starting salary of around £23,000 in London and rising to £45,000 with a few years experience. Now for this one I have got a small activity. So this is a post that my colleague produced for a recent event that the London Digital Jobs and Skills Hub ran. So this is the post that we used. So next I'm going to show you a couple of different posts, and if you could just shout out what you think is wrong with each of the posts, please. So, yeah, this one works even worse on the screen. The text is in completely the wrong colour, so it's, you can't really read that at all, can you? No. Well, fairly obvious what's wrong with that one. What about this one? Far too many details. The text is far too dense. It's comprehensive to potential attendees, but very off-putting. You can imagine scrolling straight past that on your social feed because it's just incredibly badly designed. And this one. The picture doesn't correlate with the theme of the event at all. Yes, exactly. So just a very brief little taste of sorts of questions that you would be asking yourself if you were working as a digital marketer. On to software and games development. Now, even if you've never played a computer game, you will have used software. And I think one of the misconceptions about roles in technology is that they are very, they lack creativity, but software and games development absolutely proves that wrong. You are designing things from scratch, you are creating in response to a brief, just as you would in more traditionally viewed creative roles. So, however, you are using code to create the solutions that, either the software solutions or designing the gameplay. So it's a wonderful mix of being both creative and logical. And if you would describe yourself as liking problem solving, then this could be a role that you would consider. So you don't need to know a coding language when you start on your course, but you would learn at least one coding language. Python is a very common language to start with. We're going to learn a little bit more about Python in a moment. Python uses natural English words as part of delivering the coding instructions, so there's not complicated phrases to remember. It's a lot easier to pick it up because it uses these more familiar terms. You'll see what I mean in a moment. But you would, and once you've learned one coding language, it becomes easier to learn others as you learn the way that you have to think like a machine, and you can adapt and learn new coding languages as you go. Software and games development starting salaries around £30,000 in London and rising up to £60,000 after a few years. Cloud computing is a role that I think is little understood, despite the fact that we all use cloud services increasingly through both our social lives, our leisure activities, and that's reflected in the increasing use of cloud services by businesses. So, with computing, use services like Netflix or Spotify as part of your leisure activities. I think we all have an understanding the content that we want is stored not on our local device, but in the ether, in the mythical cloud. But businesses are increasingly using cloud services to store their data, to connect colleagues with each other, and to deliver the services to their customers. So a cloud computing specialist will deliver, design, and maintain and deliver those cloud services to a business. So again, thinking about the kind of person that would appeal to, or if you are always someone that likes to keep up with the latest software or hardware developments, if you always have to have the latest phone, this could be a good role for you. But crucially, again, I think there's a misconception that tech roles are very solitary. The sort of the cliche of a hacker or someone in a hoodie staring at a screen late at night is absolutely not true. Cloud computing engineers work very much as part of the team, so you're working closely with colleagues. Linux is a programming environment, a computing environment. You would learn as part of your course, again, and then you see different cloud services, AWS, Google Cloud, or Microsoft Azure. Starting salaries are £25,000 to £30,000 in London and to £55,000 after a few years. So for both software and games development and computing, I've mentioned that they both use Python. We are going to try a very quick coding activity. So if you wouldn't mind getting out your mobile phones, you can sign up to the Microsoft Wi-Fi if you would prefer. But if you could also visit this website, .careers/emocode. hub.careers/emocode, and after a moment you should get to a screen that looks like this. I will bring back, and you're going to click on the little pencil that I have drawn a circle around, but I will bring back the web address. Oop, I will try to bring back the web address. There we go. hub.careers/emocode. Can you give me a little nod when you're on the right screen. Perfect, thank you. Yeah, I'll just wait for a couple more and then. Excellent. So I can bring this back up if you need. So once you click on the pencil, which should be in the middle of your screen, you will then see a written code, which will look like this. So this is a coding language that I mentioned called Python. So here we are going to just create some code to make some a personalized message that you choose display. So using emoji. So with Python, we start by importing different libraries to help the language know what sort of thing it's doing today. So I mentioned that Python uses these English terms to, which makes it easier to pick up. So we're using the Python library emoji, but we just say from emoji import, which means it's telling the library, the Python coding environment, look at this emoji library. So if you click down at the bottom here where I've drawn a circle, and we're going to just type in the following instruction. Now, if you haven't ever done any coding before, the thing to remember is that computers are really, really smart. If it is expecting a single quotation mark and you put in double quotation marks, it's not going to work. If it's expecting a comma and you put in a space, it's not going to work. So you could type in this phrase exactly as you see it, with the spaces in the right place. And then once you have done that, there's a small arrow up at the top, which is like a play button, and then you should get a result back on your screen. I'm going to wait on there while everyone's trying that out. If you're having any problems, next to you, the helps you what the computer is looking for. Hi. Have you got the play button up at the top? Oh. Yeah.
So like I can't type.
Yeah. That's really weird. And what happens if you press enter? That's so. And you don't have any other problems with your keyboard? No. Hey. That's it. Yeah. And then if you scroll back up and press play and see what happens, you need the last bracket on though.
It's coming like this.
Yeah. Perfect. You've just got a space in. Oh well. Try pressing play and see what happens. Yes. Once you have finished doing your coding, let me remind myself, if you, up here, once you've typed in print hello world, if you press the play button up here, you then should have a message displaying on the screen. Hello world is a sort of classic, it's often what people write as they're testing their first line of code. So, yeah. And you should have little emojis coming up. You can also then, I'm going to bring this back up. So, you should know that we've used the world, where we have written world, you can then go back and use any of these terms and change the emoji. You can also change the text that displays. So have a go personalizing your message. Hopefully what you're learning is that coding is quite precise. So you do need to pay attention to things like capital letters, to punctuation, but it is logical, and you can... I have really skated over a lot of coding instructions now, so don't worry if this sort of doesn't quite click. I just wanted to give you a little taste of writing your first lines of code if you've never done it before. Yeah, that's happened to another lady over here. I don't know why that is. Sorry. Yeah, no, I don't know. It happened to a lady over there as well. I'm going to leave it up for a couple more minutes, and we've just got just play around with make your own message. So I've highlighted the world is gives us these 3 world emojis, but you can replace it with any of the words here to get different emoji. And you can also change the text, hello. You could say, my coding is fire. You could say, I prefer books. You could say, is that the time? However, whatever sort of message you want, this is just a chance for you to get creative. Anybody want to shout out what message they are displaying as they edit it? Hearts, nice, excellent. Are you saying heart, or are you saying I love something, or nice? Okay, I'm going to move on. Obviously, you can play around with this afterwards to your heart's content. So, as a reminder, we were just trying out a simple coding activity because roles like cloud computing and software and games development do require coding as part of them. The next roles that I'm going to talk about don't often require coding, but they do involve a comfort and a familiarity with numbers. So the roles of data analyst and data engineer are roles where you're helping the business to make better decisions about the future of the direction of the business by analysing the data that the business collects about their customers. That could be from websites, that could be data, customer data, personal data, that could be observing behaviours and then recording those. A data analyst will prepare those insights and share with colleagues, whereas a data engineer is formatting the data, they work closely with the data analyst to prepare that data so that it can be analysed and understood to help make those business decisions. So, this is my way of helping you understand if this is the right role for you. If you've ever made a spreadsheet to figure out what type of car insurance is the best for you, you might want to consider a role as a data analyst or data engineer, because you are already thinking in the way that they can do. The kind of person it suits and the skills that you either will already have or would develop on the course, comfort using numbers, familiarity with Excel, though you don't need to have any advanced skills before you start the course. But for data engineering, again, you would be using Python, as we just were, to create our emoji messages. You would learn that on the course that you would be taking. And the starting salary for data analysts is around 26,000, data engineers around 30,000, to 50,000 for data analysts and 90,000 for data engineers. So because this is a less familiar role, I just wanted to give us another quick activity on your phones. So this time you could go to the website hub.careers/census. We're going to be doing a very quick data analysis activity. This accesses the 2021 census data from the UK. I will be coming back to that web address. So if on there, if you scroll down slightly, you can type in a postcode. So if you type in a postcode, it could be around your home. I'd recommend choosing an area that you know well, because you get some quite interesting data, and it's quite interesting. This is an area near my house. So I'll just go back to the web address. So yeah, type in when you get to this, type in a postcode that's familiar to you, and then bring up the map, similar to the one that I just showed. Now, has anybody in the postcode, anybody got more than 290 people living in their postcode? What have you got? 390, nice. Any advance on 390? 490, any advance of... Anyone else got an advance on 480? 480 is our winner. Who's got the least number of people in their postcode? Who's 203? 220. Any lower than 220? Nice. Bingo. Ching, ching, ching. Pardon? 210. Ah, pipped at the post. Pipped at the post. But if you... when you go onto that page, there are the drop-down lists, so you can choose a few different criteria to... gives you population criteria to understand about your area. That brings up graphs like these, some graphs of your choosing. This is the menu you can choose to compare yourself. So I've got a few questions. These are the sorts of questions that a data analyst would approach this information, and the sorts of questions that they might be asked by a colleague. So we've already covered the population of your postcode. How would you find out how your area compares to the English average? See if you can figure that out. But also, a statistic that surprises you. I've asked you to pick a postcode that you know fairly well. So hopefully on there's something that surprises you. It could be about the way it compares to the national average. It could be based on your knowledge of the area, a statistic that surprises you. And I mentioned that data analysts help make better decisions. So sometimes they have to think around the problem. These statistics were collected during COVID. I mentioned they were collected in 2021. Can you find one or more set of statistics that would have been affected by that? Anyone figured out how you find out how your area compares to the English average? So is that the statistic that surprises you? And the graph you get up, I'll bring it up. Oh, hang on, I'll just, So, from these graphs, how do we tell which is to do with the area that I have selected and which is the English average? The black line is England, exactly, yeah. So I've selected an area near me in Tottenham where very much fewer people are born in the UK. Only 37% are born in the UK, whereas 82% is the English average. So you can use that to get a sense of how your area, the area that you've picked, compares to England as a whole. Anybody got any, doing that analysis then, does anybody have any statistics that surprise them, that jump out at them as being noteworthy about their area? I'm quite, it's not surprising, but it's because this is Tottenham, very few people have no cars or vans, because why would you need one in London? Compared to England, I think that's quite interesting for me. Anyone else? Distance travel to work. Ah, okay. More people living, yeah. Most, just to repeat that, she said most of her neighbours work from home, but there's no Starbucks nearby. How are they caffeinating themselves? And then does anyone want to have a guess at what statistics might be affected by collecting this data during COVID lockdowns? A lot of people did move out the city, yeah. Household deprivation, yeah, absolutely. The number of people in work was massively affected. And we've also mentioned one, which is the number of people distance travel to work. A lot of people working from home, so that statistic would have been affected by the lockdowns because they weren't travelling to work as much. This has given you just a tiny little taste of some of the different roles in technology, many of which you can access through the boot camps that we're going to be hearing about. Stefan, I'm handing back to you. I don't think I have any more. You have time for a little break. Yes? Great. Feel free to carry on playing around with the census data, with that emoji coding activity as well, to get a little taste for it. But thank you so much for participating, for playing my little game as well. I really appreciate it. And I hope that you have, we've got a 10-minute break now, so we will see you back here then.